it's good to stay where you think you know a little bit more than the other stuff. But what in the media business? The choice was quite clear after a little bit of dabbling around that one day. I took a tour of the US, spent some time with some of the new media companies, you know, the Voxes of the world, the Huffington Posts of the world, the Mike.coms of the world. And it became fairly clear that media, especially news and information media, and that's where my world is now very largely restricted to, is going to be moving digital. And then this whole media moving digital theme, I think in the last 2 years that I have been in this space, has accelerated. But you know, at the very outset, let me tell you that I think the proposition is framed a bit erroneously. When you say digital, I don't believe you're capturing the essence of what the proposition is. Because everything is digital. Today, all content consumption is on digital media. It is delivered through digital pipes. It is seen on devices which are largely digital. So when we frame a proposition and say media and content consumption is going digital, I just don't believe we are framing it correctly, because what we are doing is stating an axiom. Everything will be digital in our lives, including shopping now, including banking now, everything is digital. So it's important to frame the proposition correctly if you want to get good insights and learnings on which way media consumption will proliferate. So the important thing is not digital. The important thing is linear versus non-linear. When I say linear, I mean the ability to sit back and consume any piece of media without intervening, interacting, altering it in any way. So you sit back and you watch or you read, but without the ability to have an interaction or alter. That's linear consumption. And then there is non-linear consumption, which is essentially the kind of media when you're consuming, you have the ability to resequence your consumption. You have the ability to not watch something, read something, call up a graphic at any point, call up video. So you have the ability to resequence your experience. You have the ability to alter it. You have the ability to intervene. You have the ability to interact. You have the ability to converse. That's non-linear. So the debate largely should be framed as whether media consumption and what kind of media consumption will be largely linear and what will be largely non-linear. And then there is a subsidiary, there is a second layer of a conundrum that needs to be cleared up, and that is, will you watch it on a screen which is static, which means you are static when you are watching it. So when we say static screen means you are static when you are watching it, or are you going to consume this media as you are moving? Therefore, the consumption will happen on a mobile device which moves with you. I think that is the correct framing of the proposition. Linear versus non-linear, mobile versus static. So if you frame it like this, then my learning, and I think, while the world is still grappling and coming to grips with how all of this will evolve and end, what is the end point going to be, I think I'm becoming reasonably clear in my mind after having done this for 2.5 years, is that the large format entertainment, which is film on the big screen, extravaganzas, high quality documentaries, immersive experiences, almost all of them, because of the scale of their production, will be very largely consumed on static screens and in the linear mode. Add to this large community events like, again, a big match, let's say the IPL final. Now the IPL final is something that as a community you would like to watch. You'd like to watch it in real time, you would like to watch it with friends around you, you'd probably like to go to a beer bar and have a shared experience. So where content is on such a large format, big films, big matches, community events, then I believe that the preponderant form of consumption will be the static stream and will be linear. You don't want to interfere in it. You don't want to intervene in it. I'm saying preponderant. That's not to say that all consumption will happen like that. A lot of people will still, if you're sitting at an airport and catching a flight and there is an IPL final that's going to happen, you have no other option but to watch it on Hotstar or some other mobile app. But preponderantly, where you have the choice on how you want to watch it, you will watch it on a static stream and you will watch it in the linear way. When it comes to news and information, and when it comes to short format entertainment, which are really your, the quickies, the comedy clips, and some of the, spoofs, all of that, I believe, preponderantly will move to the non-linear mode, and they will move to mobile consumption. Because the engagement level that you have with this content is very personal. It's very one-on-one. News has largely become a one-on-one experience, unless these are big days as an election counting day or something like that. But otherwise, news is a one-on-one experience. You largely today get it on your mobile or your engaged computer screen. You largely today get it from social engagements, from your friends or your Twitter feed. So news and information will very largely become a non-linear consumption pattern on a mobile device, and short-form entertainment, spoofs, clips. Once again, very largely you get through social. So this is the broad learning that I've had in the last couple of years, that this is how media consumption will move. So how does that change the way we create content? If the way we consume content is going to follow this format, then what is the way in which we create content? Now, I was listening to the previous discussion, bits of the previous discussion on the film industry. I am a very bad expert on the film industry because when we were at Network 18, I think the one business in which we flunked was the film business. We had our share of hits, but I think on a P&L basis, we lost a lot of money. So I'm really the sort of not a very good person to talk about how that evolution will happen. But I do know one thing, and that's possibly the only thing I will say on the film industry, and then move on to an industry, the news industry, that I understand much better. As far as the film business is concerned, I was neck deep in that business from the production studio side between 2007 and 2014. As I said, the single largest amount of money we must have lost was in the film business. And the reason for that is very clear to me in hindsight. It's the wisdom of hindsight. The cost structure of the Indian film industry is all wrong. I was having a conversation once with our partners at Viacom, who are amongst the largest film producers in the world, in Hollywood as well, Paramount Films. And I threw the conundrum at them, and this was part of one of our board meetings where the executives were down here, and they were saying, listen, why don't these films make money? You get the revenues, but when it comes to creating the P&L of the operation, quarter after quarter after quarter, we see losses. And I said, listen, I'm as perplexed as you are, because when you draw the worksheet, it all looks so lovely. This is an A-category film with a big star and a big star cast and a big director, and we'll spend so much on printed publicity, we'll release it in so many screens. The last film of this big actor took in so much money, and it's going to cost us so much, and we'll have a lovely 22% return on capital. And it doesn't happen. When you sit down to draw the P&L, it just simply doesn't happen. So I remember that conversation. It became fairly clear that the problem is in the cost structure of the Indian film industry. The Paramount people would tell us that in Hollywood, even if the biggest director and the biggest actor are involved in a film, their take from the revenue of the film hardly ever exceeds 10%. And I looked at them with great surprise. I said, are you sure? If you have the biggest name in town, will it be 10%? They said, well, if it's really big, maybe it'll go up to 15% of the revenues of the film. But that's it. That's it. The rest of the 85% of the revenue of the film is available to other talent, it's available to the studio, it's available to the people, financiers, etc. who are putting in the money. Now, things may have changed since 2014. I have not looked at the film business since then. But at the time that we were looking at it very closely, the